Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, it's just with the common nerd bringing you pop culture and all things right through a common sense lens. And I am a DC fanboy. I'm going to reiterate that right now before I get into all of this, right? And as we know right now, things are going on behind the scenes with who will be the new owners for the DC universe out there. Obviously, Warner Brothers Discovery is up for sale right now. We know we've got Paramount kind of in the lead with Netflix and Comcast, at least trying their hand at trying to get a hold of the things out there right now. And it looks like Paramount's probably going to end up coming out on top, but we'll know a bit more next month. But at the end of the day, we all know that Warner Brothers leaks like a sieve, right? They don't have very good control or handle on their people, and apparently there aren't any major consequences out there, or at least they don't care to investigate who actually leak things and make sure this kind of stuff doesn't happen, because people out there kind of get to do a little bit of what they want, and especially since Zaslav has been in charge. So those of us that remember all the way back in the day when the CW still existed in the form that it once did before it ended up getting sold off out there for pieces and scraps, essentially. That gave us the Arrowverse. Started off with Stephen Amell as the Green Arrow in that series. Gave us a really dark, kind of gritty take for that first season on the character out there. He was actually out there eliminating people, and it just sparked an entire universe that was so wonderful for so many years. I absolutely loved the Arrowverse. I loved Flash. I loved Legends of Tomorrow. I loved a Supergirl as well. I loved all of the stuff that came out, even though Supergirl started off on CBS, but eventually came there. But any of us out there watching the Arrowverse saw the signs. We saw the things that were coming out there. Although we didn't really know what it was at the time, we saw how the storytelling started to get worse and worse over the years. How the crossovers didn't make a lot of sense, and how instead of being a big superhero action piece, it's said to seem to be like more of a melodrama written by high school girls. And well, we didn't have a word for it at the time, and I like to call it more spirit of the age, but a lot of people reference it to it now as known as woke, right? When we didn't have a definition for it back then. Obviously, I loved The Flash, but it got to a point where I was sick and tired of watching Barry Allen, who is supposed to be this cocksure, just egotistical little, I can go headstrong, go in there, I can take care of anything because I'm the fastest man on the earth, reduced to nothing more than a crying simp who every time he went up against some kind of major struggle or got his butt beat, he was crying to his wife, Iris West, right? Telling her about all of his problems, and she had to boost him back up. She had to give him a pat on the back and tell him, Barry, you can do it. And I just got sick and tired of it. And the writing should have been on the wall for all of us. Looking back at it now, we all see it, right? We saw what happened with Supergirl. And we saw what even in the second season, their dig against having actual guns and firearms. And then we got the stupid virtue signal throwaway and you'd miss it line about the trans alien that was on Earth now and talking about all of their rights and yada, yada, yada. But needless to say, all of that premises me for this. I loved what the CW and the Arrowverse did when it was good, right? And we should have all seen the red flags. This is why we call them red flags. We should have known from the get-go. With the Flash show alone, when they race swapped Iris West and made her a different character, right? And I still love that actress. I think she did a great job, and especially in the early seasons, I really loved it. But just like everything else, it started off from a bad premise, and that's why we all have red flags now. But at the end of the day, it was a good time. I loved a lot of these characters. I loved a lot of these actors, and a lot of these actors absolutely loved these roles. Stephen Amell still talks about his Arrowverse time. He absolutely pushed back against James Gunn when James Gunn decided to take a dig at the Arrowverse and what they did. Grant Gustin loved the role of the Flash and wants to return to it if the opportunity has ever been there. And with everything behind the scenes massively changing, with the potential of James Gunn being out as the head of DC, seeing a return of Zack Snyder and the Snyderverse and getting to see that come to its full fruition and completion, are all potentially back on the board. Now, given, I'm going to be upfront with you now that I've nerded out, and you've got to experience that. This video, this story, this article from Will Harrigan over at cosmicbook.news is all pretty much speculation and theory crafting. There's no inside sources. There's no confirmations from people in the know. It's just some strange things are getting posted on Warner Brothers' Flash and Arrow social media accounts. And it's really curious, with everything going on behind the scenes and negotiations being ongoing right now, why they would post stuff like this unless they knew something. Maybe it's just for nostalgia. Maybe Common Nerd and Will were just DC fanboys and were grasping at straws here. All of those things could be true. But boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, as soon as I went over this article, I could not help but hear my fanboy screaming out at me that we had to talk about this, because this is another thing that would absolutely make me super excited and would work out very, very well for the future of DC and give a lot of us fans a great conclusion to what we've all seen and want to see end up panning out. And guess what? Stephen Amell and Grant Gustin are absolutely ready to suit up anytime the call comes in. So we're going to check out this article from CosmicBook.news, getting all of the juicy details, show you what the We Are Brothers social media accounts have been posting and why DC fans are freaking out over this. But before we do, if you do enjoy our content, hit that like button, share with all your friends, and subscribe or follow if you have not already, boys and girls, because we are grinding, we are growing. We just crossed 2,400. We're inching our way towards 25 on our journey to 100,000. I think we're sitting at like 24.47 or 48, depending on which way the algorithms bounce, or depending on which way the numbers are bouncing on that day. And I could not do that without every single one of you. Get us all the way to 2750 so we can, or 2450 so we can secure that number and start having that nonsense happen to us. But also, let us know what you think about this in the comment section down below. Did you enjoy the Arrowverse in the beginning? Did you love Stephen Amell as the Arrow? Did you really like Grant Gustin as the Flash, especially in those early days? Did you love Legends of Tomorrow and Supergirl like I did, especially in the early days? Let us know what you think about it. And also, do you agree with me? Do you think it went woke and that's actually what ended up happening? Let us know what you think about it in the comment section down below. And to support the channel, please check out the links in the description as well. All right, from Will Harrigan over at CosmicBook.news, boys and girls. Arrow teases back with a vengeance. How about Grant Gustin as the Snyderverse Flash? Now, if you'll remember from some of our past kind of rumor kind of things going on behind the insides out there, we did hear that the only person that was up for kind of a question mark as to whether or not they could come back for their Snyderverse stuff was, of course, Ezra Miller and all of his insanity and his really garbage, trashy portrayal of the Flash. And honestly, I think all of the fans of the Snyderverse would be perfectly okay with that recasting and that change up. And honestly, who better could you ask for than Grant Gustin? The official Arrow Facebook page, which is likely run by Warner Brothers, posted an image of Stephen Amell as Green Arrow, saying, "Back with a vengeance." And that is right down here. And I mean, look at that picture. And it makes me it reminds me of it. I don't remember the wrestler's name, but Stephen Amell used to show up at some of these wrestling events, and he'd always call him out. He's like, "I want the Arrow." He wanted to fight the Arrow, right? And the thing, which of course was never going to happen, because you're never going to get Warner Brothers and the CW, and at the time CBS plus WWE all together to negotiate an appearance like that. It just wasn't going to happen. Too many turning cogs out there in the thing. Now, though, if Paramount Skydance ends up buying up everything whole cloth and owns all of this, well, I mean, that would be a little bit easier. We already know Ellison has good ties with the UFC guys, which the UFC guys essentially own WWE now. So, hey, that could be a potential crossover you might see happen too. The guy actually might get his fight with the Arrow. But this is what they posted. And this is weird. This was on Monday, right? So at the time of this recording, this was just yesterday they posted this. Remind you, all of these negotiations are going on in the background right now. We've seen Snyder posting stuff left and right. There's been reports about what Snyder's cinematographer, I think, out there was posting some stuff talking about all of this going, pushing back against a few things, right? Basically, he's ready to go. And then, of course, the other one, the Flash, Grant Gustin. You can't let the threat of losing tomorrow keep you from making the most of today. Now, given both of these are obviously direct references to the shows, directly references to episodes and things that happen to the shows as well. But the timing is very curious, right? Most things don't happen in a vacuum, despite what people like to talk about and use a coincidence as an excuse for everything, right? Could this be a coincidence? Sure. But these are social media managers. Right? These people are hired because they know how to run these things and get engagement. So that could be it as well. Could this just be engagement farm, knowing that the DC fan base is completely and totally excited? They're on the edge of their seats right now, waiting to see what happens. Is Snyder going to come back? Is James Gunn going to keep going forward? Is Netflix going to buy it? Is Comcast going to buy it? Is Paramount going to buy it? What's going to happen, right? Because I know I can't stop myself. And trust me, these videos don't always get the sexiest algorithm stuff when I'm talking about all these intricacies behind the board, but I can't help myself. And I'm a DC fanboy. I can't help myself but want to know what's going on. I want to know what the future of my DC universe is. Maybe this hints at it. That's what's got the fans going wild. Those two pictures, that stuff going on out there, right? So this is where we're at. The post immediately set off speculation because it arrives at the same time Snyderverse activity has surged again. From Zack Snyder returning to Instagram with DCE images to cinematographer Larry Fong reactivating on social media. Where you been, Larry? Why you coming back right now? With all these rumors floating around about how Snyder's we already know Snyder is all buddy-buddy with the Saudis. Potential Saudi money back in either Paramount or Comcast. Looking more likely Paramount. Right? Huh. Interesting, Larry. Interesting to have you come back at a time like this. The Flash CW Facebook also posted, "You can't let the threat of losing tomorrow keep you from making the most of today." But the thing about it is, just like, Larry Fong could just be back because he sees it all excited. It could be a coincidence. This could not be coordinated at all. It could be coordinated, but it could be coordinated strictly from Snyder and his friends around there. Hey, things are up for bid. I got a chance about getting back into Warner Brothers and getting back in. Get back on social media. Start liking all this stuff. Start posting it out there, right? Because we know they do this, right? The notorious and infamous rumor about old, what's his face? I can't remember now, but the one that was supposed to play Zelda, right? It turned out, or the one that was rumored to play Zelda, right? It turned out that was literally nothing more than something that came from his marketing team, right? It came from his agent, right? Got put out there in the media. Hunter Schafer, right? Hunter, right? That rumor got put out by his agency, right? So that right there, it could be Zack essentially doing this on his own, right? Trying to get this out there. But at the end of the day, we know these people pay attention to fan response. And if Zack's getting a lot of fan response by doing this, if those CW pages or those Arrow and Flash pages get a lot of interaction for this, right, at a time where essentially everything's up for grab as far as the future of DC is concerned, sure makes fans wonder, now doesn't it? Fans remember that the Snyderverse and the Arrowverse crossed paths in Crisis on Infinite Earths, where Ezra Miller's Flash appeared in the crossover. I loved that scene. This was at the height of me being just embedded into the CW universe. Like, my son and I had a routine, right? We watched them on the free CW app, right? Because Hulu stopped having a free app that you could watch without paying for. So CW created its own app, its own standalone app on its own. You could go in there and watch the episodes the next day, right? I haven't had broadcast television since like 2012, right? So we had a Roku box, we downloaded the CW app, and we watched it on there. So we had a routine, right? It was like one night was this and this, the next night was Legends of Tomorrow and this, and then and everything. So right, we had a routine, right? This was part of my son's routine and I for years of watching these shows. And I loved that crossover. That's how invested I was in this. That's how much I enjoyed it. That's how much I loved sharing it with my son. And that's what made me so upset about what they did to it. And now we know why they destroyed it. It was for virtue signaling and talking points. And guess what happened to the CW? Go woke, go broke. Possessed by the spirit of the age and sacrificed it all on the altar to Lucifer himself. And what did it get him? All gone. All of it. Grant Gustin out of a job, Supergirl, all those folks, everybody on Legends Tomorrow, all out of a job. Why? Because your virtue signaling was more important than giving us good DC stories. Well, guess what? Virtue signaling days are numbered because Paramount Skydance is going to be the new boss. So yeah. Fans remember the Snyderverse and the Arrowverse crossed paths on Crisis on Infinite Earths when Ezra Miller's Flash appeared in the crossover. We were also the first to report it was happening from our same Snyderverse sources, by the way. Once again, Cosmic Book News has a track record. There's a reason we go back to them over and over again. And it became one of the most talked about DC moments of the decade. The crossover means Snyder has the option to bridge the worlds again. And with what we're hearing, that Ezra Miller is doubtful for a return, the timing of the Arrow's teaser raises a new possibility. And honestly, Grant Gustin is the one I want. We talked about this in videos way back then. Right? When all this stuff with Ezra Miller, we were reporting on all of Ezra Miller's crazy hijinks, all the insane stuff that was going on him like 4 years ago, right? Go check out our archives on the Green Machine. You can see those there, right? And I was like, let's just put Grant Gustin in the role. He's perfect for it. The fans already love him. The fans already know him. Just give us Grant Gustin. Get rid of Ezra Miller. Give us Grant Gustin. Nobody ever questioned. Nobody ever did. Contracts, Hollywood, yada, yada, yada. Walter Hamada over at Warner Brothers. Yeah, that never happened. But now, as the Snyderverse insider said, everything is on the table right now. On X, we floated the idea that if Miller's out, Snyder could bring Grant Gustin into the Snyderverse as The Flash. Gustin has fan support, has the history, and already has an in-universe connection to the Snyder world through Crisis, which, of course, could bring back whoever else we want from Crisis. We could have our Supergirl back, our Superman from that show, Stephen Amell back. I wouldn't mind seeing the Legends of Tomorrow crew come back as long as it's not all stupid lesbian relationship stories, right? Constantine. I can't remember that actor's name, but my God, you couldn't have gotten a better guy to play a live-action John Constantine. I love the Keanu Reeves movie. I can't wait for the sequel. But my God, for being a comic book accurate John Constantine, that dude was spot on. Boys and girls, absolutely spot on, right? All of that could come back. All of that's on the cards. All of that is a potential. Like the Snyderverse insider said, everything's in play right now. And here's the thing. The Ellisons have got the money. With or without the Saudis, they've got the money to do both. They've got the money to do whatever they want. Continue James Gunn's universe, or go back to Snyder, maybe bring the CW stuff back, bring a little bit of that in, make it part of that continuity. I don't know. The possibilities are endless, and that's what's got fans freaking out and talking about all of this. With Snyder back in play, that idea doesn't feel far-fetched. And with Arrow suddenly teasing a return via an official Warner Brothers connected page, I mean, Warner Brothers owns the rights to this character. They would have to have some control over that for it to be an official page. Because I don't think the CW really has all that stuff. I don't think the CW really still has the rights to any of that stuff anymore. And it opens the door to something even bigger. While Amell didn't post the teaser himself, he said many times he'd come back as Green Arrow if the opportunity came up. He also said just a few days ago he would be back if it made the fans happy. Come on now, DC fans. Tell me that wouldn't make you happy. Stephen Amell returns as the Arrow. Ladies out there, for like the 1% of you that might watch this video, especially this far in after Common Nerd's been ranting this long. Tell me you don't want to watch Stephen Amell do them overarm clink, clink, clink thingies without his shirt on again. Tell me you don't want to see that. Don't lie, right? Tell the truth and shame the devil. You know you want that, okay? All right? Let's just be, plus it gives some guys something to aspire to, all right? Let's just be honest about that. And with the Snyderverse wheels turning again, it isn't hard to imagine Snyder pulling in familiar faces or cameos or full appearances. A Snyder-directed project featuring Gustin's Flash and even a quick Amell cameo would set the internet on fire and would fit Snyder's approach of rewarding fans who stuck with the originals. Hashtag restore the Snyderverse. I love the Snyder cut. I love the Snyder cut. Cyborg actually gets his proper time to shine. Screw Walter Hamada. There has also been tension between James Gunn and Stephen Amell, like we alluded to earlier. Now, Gunn mocked the Snyderverse. Gunn's DCU also mocked the Arrowverse, which led to Amell pushing back. F those guys, responded Amell last year. I didn't effing appreciate that. Who would? Not only did the guy spend years doing this, but he put in the work physically for what? Almost a decade that show lasted, and he was jacked the entire time. You know what kind of work that takes to look like that all of the time? Now, given he probably didn't look like that every time because they dehydrate before they do shirtless scenes, but he's still got to be in that shape the entire time. So it's not just the years he spent playing the character, it's what he did for his body to make sure that he could embody our Green Arrow. So he could be our Arrow. And so he loves the character. And I'm down for this. The Snyderverse revival conversation has only resurfaced that dynamic. And Arrow's sudden back with a vengeance post feels like this doesn't feel like coincidence when viewed in context. Between Snyder's post, Larry Fong's return, industry chatter, new franchise movement, and Arrow's official page suddenly waking up out of nowhere, the signs keep stacking up. Is Arrow teasing a home media push? Possibly. I mean, we do know that like a lot of things are getting released in 4K. A lot of that stuff's doing out there. Maybe. Streaming return? Sure, that's possible. We know Zaslav has no problem selling rights off the stuff, making sure it can stream somewhere else. That's a possibility. As far as I know, I think Netflix has still got the rights to those things for right now, or something tied to Snyder. We don't know yet, but the timing is impossible to ignore. And that's what it comes down to. Could all of this be wishful thinking? Sure. Could all of it just be a bunch of fanboys hoping and praying and begging for a return to some kind of good DC on television and in movies? Absolutely. But that would be weird. That would be really weird if that was the case. Why would essentially a dormant social media account for shows that are quintessentially dead all of a sudden come alive again, posting pictures of two fan favorite characters from two actors that absolutely adore the roles and, most importantly, the fans of those roles, all at a time where Snyderverse chatter is everywhere. We know Warner Brothers is up for sale. Paramount Skydance is most likely the future owner. And they don't want any of the diversity, inclusion, and equity nonsense from James Gunn. James Gunn already views, quote unquote, conservatives as his enemy. He's made that very apparent with Peacemaker Season 2 and Creature Commandos. Can't imagine a guy like that hanging out very much when a MAGA guy like Ellison is now in charge. Snyder, on the other hand, I don't think Snyder's that much of an advocate as far as anything one way or the other. Snyder just wants to make his story. Snyder just wants to tell the story he wants to, the interpretation he wants to of beloved DC characters. And a lot of fans liked it. And it made more money than James Gunn. For all the Snyderverse haters out there, a lot of people hated James Gunn's Superman even more than that. And isn't that a change of pace? Isn't that an obvious 2 + 2 = 4 math equation for a guy like Ellison or anybody else that decides to buy this company? Well, we know it's going to end up being Paramount Skydance, right? Unless something just complete. And so, Lord willing and the creek don't rise, Paramount Skydance is going to be the new owners of DC. And we already know James Gunn ain't a big fan of conservatives. And if nothing else, they'll at least put a leash on him. But doesn't the timing seem odd to you too? Why would this stuff all of a sudden come alive right now? Why would Zack Snyder's, cinematographer, right? The guy come back all of a sudden. His social media now awakens back up. Either it's an influence campaign by somebody inside of Warner Brothers with Snyder, or somebody knows something. It's being negotiated behind the scenes. And it could very well see us a return to some really awesome DC. And boys and girls, at the end of the day, I'm a DC fanboy, and that's all I want. I don't care if it comes from Snyder. I don't care if it comes from James Gunn. I don't care if it comes from the Saudis. I just want the characters that we all grew up with, that we've all known and loved, to act and look like they always have and like we've always known them to be. It's not rocket science to make the fans happy, and it never has been. And at the end of the day, it looks like Hollywood has learned that lesson, at least in some cases. Some people are aware of that because fans decide what succeeds and what fails. You decide what succeeds and what fails. We already crushed Warner Brothers once for doing stupid stuff with DC like this. DC's comic sales are in the toilet for the most part because they keep doing the same dumb garbage over and over and over again. And if the Lord in heaven deems it nice enough, deems it all good and in line with his plan, we'll all get a very nice Christmas present. And Paramount and all the DEI nonsense will be gone from DC. From the top, having Snyder back and Gunn gone, all the way to the bottom of having all of the activists purged from DC Comics. Because boys and girls go woke, go broke exists for a reason. And DC and Warner Brothers have been going down that path for a very long time. And now we see the consequences of those actions. And when it comes to DC, guess what, James Gunn? You decided to do the exact same stupid thing the CW did. And well, we saw how that worked out for them. Because after all, fans decide. And we have the power. We made you bankrupt once. Don't think we can't do it again? A big shout out to all of our subscribers and members out there. Thanks for watching, and make sure you guys like and subscribe if you have not already.